Hello, everybody. Oh, I'm so happy to be joining you. We're in kind of the home stretch of my busiest time of the year, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a little tired. I'm about to go on a business retreat, and I need it so badly. So I'm excited to take a little break before I ramp up and do my last push, my busiest month of tax season. So today I want to talk to you about some of the mindset stuff that can interfere with you getting a handle on your money. And I thought I would bring you something really personal because part of the reason that I am motivated, maybe all of the reason that I am so motivated to do this work of bringing good, clear, judgment-free tax information to people like you is because I have felt so much judgment and I have been in such a particularly bad place when it came to money. And I've come all the way through the looking glass to the other side. And I want to tell you this because you can do it too. You know, a lot of you I know feel so stuck, so behind on your money, so self-judging about the place that you are with your money that it feels impossible. And I just want to crack the door open for you and say, it's not impossible. It's not easy, but it is not impossible. And I am absolutely here with love to help you do it. So I thought I would get really personal and actually just list for you a list of thoughts I myself have had about money. All right. So let's jump in. These are all extremely literal, actual thoughts I went through. All right, here goes. Is my husband going to stop loving me when we do our taxes this year? And he remembers that for the fourth year in a row, my career has cost our family more in expenses than it's brought back in income. That's a real thought. Here's another one. I can live on ramen and beans. I can give up alcohol. I enjoy working hard. I don't need to figure this out. Right? Here's another one. Corporations are evil. Why would I want to do anything they do, especially treat my beloved art like a business? Um, I don't want to take too much time debunking these these thoughts that I had early, but I definitely was very anti-corporate in my orientation. And I do want to just mention that I have really come the other way on this. I definitely do believe there is a mega capitalist, like metastasized capitalism that is definitely unhealthy and definitely negative. I think regulation is necessary and monopolies need to be broken up. And I think regulation in the US has become too lax, and companies have been allowed to have monopoly power and abuse. So I think actually the answer really is a stronger government, to be honest with you. But when it comes to capitalism on a village scale, I absolutely believe in it. I have come to realize that there's a beautiful cycle of benefit when you create a company that reflects your values in the world and that serves a population you truly care about in the world with something that you're good at and you can bring to them, a value you can bring. When you price your work ethically, for yourself and your clients, that has to be mutually ethical. um, it can provide value to your clients and it can provide value to your family, right? So I actually have come to believe that it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to create a business that reflects the values you believe in and puts some benefit into the world that wasn't there before you. So this one I've completely turned around on. And I'm not here to say that rampant, raging, metastasized capitalism is a good thing, but I do think small scale, accountable capitalism is a good thing. Okay, so I want to make a distinction there, but accountable capitalism, accountable corporations, I think are wonderful. They provide value in two directions to the to the end user, to the consumer, to the community, and also to the owner of the business and their families. So, little side note there. Obviously, Sunlight Tax is my accountable tax company, and I love it. I love it, love it. I feel deeply proud of the values that it represents. It does a thing that I want to do in the world. It's changing the world in a positive way that I truly believe in, and it serves a community I love with something that my community finds really valuable. I see all good in that, all good. Not to mention, I've, created jobs and, I try to source my things from BIPOC populations every time I can. If I can, find, uh, you know, sources for my materials and labor and stuff from, populations who benefit from having the money. I think that's a great thing. Okay, that was a little side note. Back to my list of thoughts I've had about money. Oh, here's one. If anyone saw how disorganized my receipts are, they wouldn't respect me as a professional anymore. Um, I was an artist when I said that. I didn't mean wouldn't respect me as a tax professional. Obviously, once I became a tax professional, I knew and understood how to keep my receipts, but I didn't start out that way. All right, here's a really tough one. Is my husband going to yell at me when he finds out I lost the receipts for my two biggest equipment purchases this year? What about when I don't know whether the sales tax I paid on all my art supplies should be included in my expenses or not? What about when he has to explain to me the difference between a Roth and a traditional IRA for the third time? Oh, that one brings back some bad memories. All right. And here's another one. I'm embarrassed at how little money I make, given how smart I am, given my years of graduate school, and given what an expert I am on color interaction, and how much high level professional experience I have. I can't stand to put myself in a position to be judged by an accountant who has no respect for my craft, no understanding of how difficult these accolades were to achieve, and how much respect they command when I stay in a circle of my peers. I would rather have my money flounder and my taxes go off the rails than feel the judgment of a tax person with no understanding or respect for the career that I have worked so hard for. Do you feel me on that? Raise your hand if you feel me on that last one, right? Have you felt that? I know you have because I talk to you. I talk to people who feel that way, and I have felt it so acutely. All right, I'm going to keep going. I don't want to reveal my lack of knowledge to any financial professional. I know they will judge me. The thought of investing is terrifying. I will just scrimp and save pennies, and I will not invest, and I will just live on as little as possible so I don't have to take the risk. Ugh, this one is tragic for me to reread. Tragic. I am so happy I learned how to invest. It's not rocket science. It's some work, but it's not infinite work. And God, am I glad I have investments now. Holy cow. Oh, yeah. All right. I have a few more for you. Here's one. I wish my money looked as put together as my Instagram. I know that's really common. I know I'm not the only one who has had that thought. Here's another. People who are doing the important, meaning-giving work in this world, like me, will always be underpaid. I do want to say, just as the professional that I am now, and having done a fair amount of research on this, it does not need to be true. This is a false belief a lot of us have, especially when we're around other people who also have this false belief. And so it's very easy to assume this is true, but I am here to tell you it is not. All right, moving on. Um, I cannot believe that I let my taxes be this disorganized and awful again for another year. I feel so ashamed of myself and so embarrassed in front of my husband. Last year was so bad, I promised I would fix this, but it just felt too painful to revisit, and now I've let it happen all over again. I can't believe my own disorganization. I feel like such a failure. And lastly, and tied to that last one, there's this. Why do I have to hand over my tax documents to a tax professional who doesn't get me and treats me like shit? All right. So that's some real talk from Hannah Cole. Real, real thoughts I have actually had about my money. Um, and I just want to ask you to reflect on that for a second. Does any of that sound familiar to you? Have you had thoughts like that or some flavor or variation? Absolutely. If you want to tell me, feel free to hit me up on Instagram and tell me if you understand these thoughts, if you've had thoughts like this. I'm at Sunlight Tax, and I welcome hearing from you if this sounds familiar. But I don't just want to tell you kind of how awful I felt. I want to tell you that I'm here speaking to you from the other side. I learned how to invest. I've grown an ethical business I feel immensely proud of. I have learned how to be organized with my tax documents. It still doesn't come naturally to me, I'll be honest, but I've created systems that make it more automated so I don't have to rely on a ton of hours organizing because I'm not good at that and I will never enjoy doing it. I just want it to be done. So I've developed systems that really help me. And so now I am much more organized with my taxes. And of course, I know what I'm doing. So I just want to be here from the other side to give you permission to be where you are, to look at that with just an objective eye and without a sense of judgment, and know that it's totally normal to feel how you feel now. And it's also totally possible to not feel that way anymore. So I want to give you a little metric, some mindset metrics, and then I want to give you a next step if you want to go a little deeper. Okay. So here are my mindset metrics for you to help you get from a bad place with your money to a better place. All right. Number one, mistakes are normal. All right. Everybody has made mistakes with their money in life. Everybody. You cannot get through your 20s without doing some dumb shit with your money. Okay. So, making a mistake with your money, making multiple mistakes, making a series of bad money decisions, this makes you human. Okay. The fault is where the thing you don't want to do is let that tell you a story. Let that become a story that says, I'm bad with money. I'm permanently broken. I'm unfixable, right? If you think about it, if we thought about everything that way, no one would ever get good at anything, right? I mean, you didn't know how to swim at one point in your life. You probably learned, and you probably had to take some lessons somewhere or spend just a lot of time in water in order to, learn some strokes and learn how to not sink to the bottom, right? No toddler, no baby who's learning how to walk. Like the process of learning how to walk is about falling constantly, right? No baby just gives up on walking because they fall. Like falling and learning how to balance, like that, it's kind of how you do it, right? You make the mistake and then you correct based on the mistake. Okay. So I just want you to not let your mistakes become a story that says you have some permanent state of brokenness. I want you to remind yourself that mistakes are how we learn. Okay. I don't think that anybody listening here has made worse and stupider mistakes than I have with my money. And I'm now someone who's pretty smart with it. All right. So I'm not permanently broken, and neither are you. All right. Next, forgive yourself. Self compassion is the only way forward when it comes to facing a hard money situation. I really can't emphasize this enough. We tell ourselves a lot of stories when it comes to money. I know that it can feel like your father judging you, your boyfriend judging you, um, society, teachers, voices in your head kind of telling you stories. Um, Not to mention the harshest critic of all, which is probably yourself. And I just want to counsel you that you need a lot of self-compassion when you're facing a hard money situation. Facing it, just looking at your money, that in and of itself is hard. A lot of people don't. A lot of people avoid. And so simply the act of looking, of facing something ugly and bad and not where you want it to be, is in itself an act of bravery that you should feel proud of. And I want to hold that heaviness with you and recognize how hard it can be and just say, be so kind to yourself, be so caring and loving towards yourself. You need that. You're going to need that in order to do the work. Okay. All right. And lastly, education. Nobody comes out of the womb knowing the rules to setting up a solo 401k, right? A lot of us judge ourselves. We feel like everybody else knows this stuff and we don't. And I just want to remind you, I know I say this all the time, but there's no tax education in this country. People don't all know this stuff. The people who know got the education somewhere. I don't want you to judge yourself because you didn't get a tax education. I'm just here to say, maybe you want to get one. Maybe there's some rules you want to learn how they work, because if you do, it will take a lot of stress out of your life. Just as you wouldn't judge yourself for not knowing calculus without ever having sat down to study calculus, you're not going to know tax rules if you don't sit down and learn them. Okay. And of course, that's where I come in. I really have tried to build a company to give you really compassionate, clear, jargon-free tax education. And I really hope that you take advantage of that, whether it's through my podcast, my free offerings, free classes, or whether you go all the way and join my program and do Money Boot Camp. I really hope that you understand that getting that education is just a necessary step, and you don't need to be judgmental toward yourself if you haven't done it yet. You just maybe this is your sign that it's time. Okay. And I want to tell you a couple quick stories before I close out today, just to give you some sense of hope and positivity. All right. One is about a former client of mine named Shannon. She is a music therapist and in a band called Olive Tiger. She's a very talented musician. And she really was one of my very best clients and a really wonderful success story. She set up bookkeeping. She got her taxes in on time. She got a big refund because she planned it, right? But where she was coming from is the most interesting part of the story. She actually had felt like she would never get her taxes organized because it felt like too mountainous of a task. She felt so behind, so disorganized that she thought she couldn't do it. She was, she's a musician and she did a lot of traveling. And so she would miss notices from the IRS. She would miss 1099s. Like, this is something that is, it's just technically possible to happen when you're not home very much, right? And your mail might get forwarded to the wrong place. So she would kind of miss notices, get behind on stuff. Her taxes were fairly complex because she had many, many multi-state situations from all that touring. And she just felt so behind on it and so averse to it. And like the problem had gotten so bad that she didn't want to face it at all. And it felt too hard to even handle. And I just tell you about her specifically because she put in some work, she put in some time on it. She got QuickBooks set up. She started paying quarterly taxes, and she figured out how to do her taxes to such a degree that she stopped owing a bunch of money on April 15th because she got ahead of the tax bill, which is the dream. I mean, that's the dream, right? So I tell you that story about my client Shannon because it's possible. It is absolutely possible to not owe money on April 15th, to stay ahead of your tax bill, not be behind, and get systems in place to keep you organized. All right. And then the last thing I want to mention is the FIRE movement. I don't know if you are familiar with the Financial Independence Retire Early FIRE movement, but it's a movement of people, my favorite of whom is Mr. Money Mustache, but there's many others. There's the Mad Fientist, there's the Frugal Woods. There's a bunch of these people, and they're a lovely, bizarro, weirdo crew. And I love weirdos, as you know. Um, And what this movement is about is kind of extreme budgeting, but I don't even want to use the word budget because really what it's about is just kind of taking a hard look at capitalism and consumerism and deciding to opt out. Actually, like really, really living very close to the ground, doing a lot of stuff themselves. It's a lot about teaching themselves their own skills and being more resourceful. And it's also about auditing their own happiness, which I find fascinating, like to be one of the most interesting parts of that movement, how obsessed these folks are with happiness and how obsessed they are with untying the idea of happiness from spending money. And these two things really don't have to have much relationship, and they often really don't, but we are trained in a capitalist society to believe that they are. So the thing that's so interesting to me, the point I want to make to you about people within the FIRE financial independence movement is a lot of them learned how to be so strict with money, so absolutely resourceful, ingenious, and live on so little money is actually and to a point where they make enough, where they have saved enough money to simply live off their savings and not have to work anymore. I maybe buried the lead on that. That is the point of the FIRE movement is retiring early, is like developing such a big pile of money that you can just live off the interest and not have to work and basically be able to spend your time as you choose to, whether it's doing community projects, spending all your time with your children, going on cool trips, traveling the world, whatever it is, right? These people are doing amazing things, but they're not doing them spending a ton of money. Well, what's interesting to me about this group of people, besides their obsession with happiness and their incredible resourcefulness, both of these things appeal to me a lot, is the fact that a lot of them were people who come from terrible financial situations. A lot of these people started out in debt. They had a ton of consumer debt. They were ashamed of it. It was awful. But the thing that's so interesting to me is that the skills that it takes to get yourself out of debt, if you're in it, are the same skills that will get you to financial independence and retiring early. And in fact, the FIRE movement is so filled with people who are coming from debt that it proves my point. And I find this really interesting as I studied them. And I think, oh, it's kind of like they started out in the negative, sort of the way that most businesses start in the negative. All businesses start in the negative. And then they worked so hard to kind of get on top of this massive growing bit of debt because they wanted to get out of a terrible financial situation, that once their debt was gone, right? Once they had zero, a net worth of zero instead of a net worth of negative, they simply applied those skills. They continued to apply those skills to a degree where they started, in business, you call it breaking even, but they started going into the positive. They were able to just stash money so much, 70% of every paycheck, something very extreme. They were able to do that to a degree where they, once they were out of debt, they just continued to amass a pile of money enough so that now they're living off the interest from that money and they quit their jobs and they just do what they love. And so I find that to be the most delightful story of going from a bad situation to an incredible situation, just as a way to illustrate in the extreme how it is possible, how making mistakes, being in a bad place, it's not the story that defines your life. It's the place you start from and it's the way you learn. And sometimes people need a lot of pain to learn lessons. I wish it weren't so, but sometimes people don't feel that it's worth it to take the time out of their life to learn stuff until they're feeling pretty extreme pain. So I hope that that helps you. I hope that my radical transparency about how awful I felt with my own money, how judged, and how I've come through to the other side. I hope that's been helpful for you. I want to make it clear that money mindset issues are universal. I mean, if I can tell you one thing from talking to so many people about their money, I will say that everyone has them. Millionaires, broke people, everyone. And I'm coming from a rough place. I've had a total transformation. It took some time, it took some effort, but I did. And you can too. I've given you some mindset tools today to help you face the hard stuff. I know it is painful, but if I can do it, you can do it. All right. Now, if you want some, I hope that those mindset tools that I gave you today are helpful. I'm going to remind you that they are understanding that mistakes are normal, forgiving yourself, and getting some education. All right. If you want some additional help facing up to this, I know it's tax season. It's the time that these demons come up. That's why I put out this episode now. I want to let you know that I am offering a free class the day after this episode comes out. So Wednesday, March 20th at noon Eastern time. So if it's before that time, you still have time to come to this free 1-hour class where I will be bathing you in the warm glow of jargon-free, clear tax education. I will be giving you some tips and takeaways. I will be reiterating some mindset help for you as it, to encourage you as you face the hard stuff. And I'll be debunking some common misconceptions that keep people stuck when it comes to their money. All right. So if you want to come to that free class, you are so welcome. It's called Make Your Taxes Easier and Stash an Extra $130K in Your Savings. And you can still register all the way up till noon on Wednesday, March 20th, when the class starts at go.sunlighttax.com/free. One more time, that's go.sunlighttax.com/free. I'll put that link in the show notes as well. And I hope to see you in class at noon on Wednesday. And to all of you, I want you to give yourself a big warm hug today and forgive yourself for mistakes you've made in the past. Let them be a motivation for you, but not an anchor around your neck. All right? All right. When I say I love you, I really mean it. Be well, all of you. I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'm so grateful for that. This video is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links I reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.